Thank you, Diane. Okay, I welcome you all to this meeting of our Whanganui Rural Community Board. And I will start with the English version of a karakia. I haven't had a chance to practice the Maori version. So I acknowledge, greet those things above, the sky, universe and the heavens. I acknowledge, greet those things below, the earth in all its entirety. Cast all negativity to the distant horizons. Cover us with the cloak of affection and love as a treasure bestowed upon us, so we may enter into enlightenment. Let it be bound and fixed. Yes, fixed. Let it be agreed by all. Okay, so we'll move on to apologies. And I have one from Brian Doughty. So do we have any further apologies?
Further apologies, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, no, wait, no, yeah, go on. Yep.
From Deputy Mayor Helen Craig and Councillor Ross. And also Member
Okay, so I will move that we accept those apologies. Can I have a seconder? Grant, thank you. All in favour? And against? Carried. Thank you. So this motion to accept additional information.
No declarations of interest.
Oh, any declarations of interest? We're not doing the Halls Trust application. Okay, so we'll move on to this motion to accept additional information. So this.
Could you read it off the screen, please, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, okay. Recommendation that the following additional information is tabled with items: agribusiness update, report to Whanganui Rural Community Board at 6.5, and 6.6, roading update, roads and footpaths operational work program status report, April 2025. I'm happy to move that, so I'll have a seconder. Michael, thank you. All in favour? Against? It's carried. Thank you. So we're moving on to, oh no, we've got the confirmation of the minutes of the 26th of February. I presume we've had a look at those, so can I have a mover for those, please? Grant, and a seconder. Michael, any discussion on those minutes? Okay, so I'll put the motion that the minutes of the Whanganui Rural Community Board meeting held on the 26th of February 2025 are confirmed as a true and correct record. All in favour? And against? Carried. Thank you. So we'll move on to public forum and item 5, and we have nothing scheduled for that for this meeting. So we'll move on to 6.1, which has been deferred till the next meeting mainly because of the difficulties of getting a quorum, and it's mainly ill health, the reasons why we're unable to get a quorum today.
Can I speak to that?
Yes, Peter?
If you delay it, will it delay the installation of the glazing?
No, I've checked. Rick White does a lot of this work for the Rural Halls Trust, and I have talked to him and he's quite comfortable with it. The job that this money is going towards has not been done yet, but we really will have to get it done by the next meeting because we need it through before the end of the financial year.
Okay.
So this is the last deferment that we can we can have on this particular item. Grant.
Is there a way of discussing and deferring, therefore getting approval from the members who have apologised in absentia by email.
I think, would you like to mention something there, Peter?
No, you can answer that question first, because then I've got another question to follow up.
Okay, I think my suggestion is that I look into that if we look like having the same problem for the June meeting, because we don't, that's our last opportunity. So if there's anything we can do, that we'll look into it for then. But Anna, would you have a comment on that?
Essentially, I would probably just encourage those members who aren't on the Rural Horse Trust to make a conscious effort to be able to attend the meeting, so that the resolution can be passed. I think with other members here, you would be able to pass that resolution without any conflict. It's just at the moment we're on limited numbers. So as long as the next meeting date works for all members, you should be fine. So I'd just suggest looking at those dates.
And even today, possibly we could have got a couple on Zoom, but it was clearly inconvenient for them, and because we had this deferment option, I didn't push it. But in both cases, it's ill health, so I didn't want to make a big deal of it.
Then my question is the issue of conflict. Now, you've declared a conflict of interest, but is it of significance that it, or of such significance that it can stop the vote? Because you've declared it, and if it's acceptable for everybody, that okay,
In this instance, while it's not directly advantaging the member, it is a pecuniary matter, and I think that's and it is up to the member themselves to decide whether they are conflicted to the point where they would withdraw from voting or not, rather than it's not. So it's really up to the member to make that decision. Except when it is to do with pecuniary interest, it is always good to err on the side of caution. But it's not my place to give any direction
I think
on that.
what we could do, Peter, is if we look like we're going to run into this problem in June, I might talk to Rob Goldsberry and see if he's got some way around it.
Yeah, because none of the members here are, advantageous by the donation.
Exactly.
I can take that action.
Yeah, personally. Okay.
I'll take the action on if you like, and I'll come back with some advice.
Oh, that would be great. Thanks, Anna.
No problem.
Okay, so we'll move on to 6.2 Communities Partners Update. And we have here today Jo Seddon from Chorus, and so she's travelled all the way from Carterton this morning. So thank you for getting here in person, Jo.
Thanks everybody, thanks for inviting me back to give you an update on where we're at with our copper network. I've just got a bit of a presentation. I see I've got only a short time, so I'll gallop on through it as per normal. The first few slides are really just an update and to recap on what I covered last time, so I don't see any real point in going through them. Thank you. There we go. So they were the slides that I had in last time's pack. So that's just to refresh your memory as to why we are retiring our copper network. The update really is that we're working through the CMAR radio retirement. We are still working through with some customers. We've had over 1,000 of our lines retired, but we're still working with some customers. Some of them are still in transit, so they're still getting their alternative technology set up. So they've still got their lines working for now. And the urban copper, I've just put that in because we talked a little bit about the fact that where we've got fibre or where there is fibre, not even necessarily Chorus fibre, but where there is fibre, we are retiring the copper network in that area, and we're expecting that to be done by the end of 2026. So we're going through that, and we've got some exchanges now that are completely fibre only and no longer have any copper workers on them, mainly in Auckland and Wellington. Any questions? I'm happy to have questions as we go through. If you've got anything, just pipe
Now,
up.
what sort of problems are you having with people regarding retiring the radio network? Is it just simply getting them to understand the new technology?
Yeah, it's making that transition and actually realising that their copper, their phone will work exactly the same. They'll pick it up, there'll be a dial tone if they want to retain their landline. It will still work exactly the same, it's just a different technology, and it's actually getting them to make that transition over. There's just a little bit of reluctance. There's also a bit of concern about that myth that copper will always work when the power goes out. And of course, it won't necessarily work because all telecommunications equipment requires power.
So is Chorus helping them with the transition to the new technology? Because it's not Chorus technology you're transferring to, is it?
No, it's not. And yes, we can help if people are struggling to find the money to make that transition to either a fixed wireless or a satellite. We can certainly help them with that, but we don't help with the power side of things because we don't do power. That's really up to the power companies, or if they're a vulnerable user, they need to talk to their provider.
So is the power an issue with the transferring of the technology?
You need, like, all telecommunications need power to work, so that's the same with if you transfer to a satellite or to fixed wireless, your modem still needs power to run. So yeah, but most people still, they don't realise it, but they actually probably have a phone that's working off power anyway. So when the power goes down, the phone goes down. I live rurally. I think I spoke about it last time. I live rurally. I'm on a fixed wireless connection with my local Wiz Wireless, and I have a battery backup. So I've got an uninterruptible power supply. So when the power goes off, I don't even realise that the power's off. Everything just keeps working, because what you do is you have the power source plugged into the power, your socket, and then everything else is plugged into that. So if the power fails, then it automatically kicks in. So you don't actually even know that it's kicked over and that you've lost your power until somebody screams in the other room that the TV's not working.
So have you got some information on those UPS
Yep.
system that you could provide us?
Yeah, there's some in that brochure, the power getting yourself ready brochure.
Okay.
I can send hard copies. We've got a few.
No, that's all right. If it's a problem is I haven't had a chance to look through your.
Yeah, I don't know if I included it this time, but I can certainly send it to you again. I think I did last time, but it hasn't been updated since then because it's still relevant.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, question. I've got a question.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, if you're on solar power, or you've got a generator that just clicks in,
Yeah.
you're fine then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just to clarify that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they don't need power at the other end.
Would it?
Well, like telephone exchange.
Yeah.
They run out of power.
No, because they won't be at the exchange. They'll be working off a satellite or off the mobile tower, or however that, as long as that has power, then yeah, they're still connected. So what they're no longer reliant on the exchange, which is likely to go down in a power cut or a civil defence emergency once the backup batteries run down.
I've got a very good system, but it is quite expensive. It's certainly more than a lot of people would want to pay.
My UPS cost me $219 to buy from, I think it was Dick Smith.
Okay, thank you.
That is just lots of stats and figures from the latest report that came out yesterday, so I won't pretend to go through it, but you can read that later on, and if you've got any questions, feel free to contact me. My contact details are at the end of this. And also that's basically giving information of where we're at with our copper lines. So this is, I think, what the report that's gone to the Commerce Commission today. So, but those 107,000 lines are throughout the country, not just in rural areas. Some of those will be in the urban areas. So once we have closed down those urban areas that have fibre, that number of copper connections will drop off next year.
Joe, do you have any information as to how many of those still to change are in the Whanganui district?
I did ask for that, and I was told that that it's such a fluid thing that they didn't actually want to kind of talk about it because people are relinquishing lines all the time. So, but I can find out. I can find out roughly. The next thing I want to talk about is something we've been doing for a little while, but things have kind of changed. We've now got a dedicated team in Chorus who is looking at how we get fibre further and how we work with communities to do that. So Chorus, then there's no more funding available from the government for any fibre expansion. So we're still getting communities coming to us saying, we live on the fringe of fibre, we're right across the road, yet we can't get fibre, how do we go about it? So we've got a team that is now set up to work with people. So it's basically a private community partnership, we're being the private ones. So the community partnerships, it's for areas where there's more complex work. So I won't talk to each point on the slide, but basically Chorus has a fund now that we can kick in. Previously we didn't. We would just say to communities, this is the amount that it's going to cost and you have to fund it yourself. Whereas we're now treating rural or non-fibre areas the same as we do for fibre areas, and we're kicking in the same amount that we do for each fibre connection in a urban setting, which is around about 3,500 per connection. So that will go towards the communal build in the street that will take it from the nearest fibre point to the end of where that community has decided their ring fence is for the number of people who want to be connected. Then Chorus will also kick in the same amount that we do in urban areas to bring it from the boundary into the house, which is around about $1,500. So anything up to 200 metres will be free, just as it is in an urban area, whereas previously communities would have had to pay that themselves. Any questions?
So the point you made when we were talking earlier was that the bulk of that cost getting to the house is trenching.
Yeah.
And so there's opportunities to save money there
So
if someone has their own trenching capability.
Absolutely. So we'll pay up to 200 metres. If their driveway happens to be 500 metres and they can dig their own trench, then we will put the duct in for nothing, because the duct itself isn't expensive, it's the trenching that costs us to do. And the fibre just gets blown through once it's all in. So we're setting up a dedicated web page that will go live soon. They're just, how comms people work. There's arguing over full stops and capital letters and the text that goes into the form. So that's the front page of what it's going to be. So what it will do is provide the communities with a whole lot of information, and that's that on the steps of how to get fibre. We'll also have some collateral that people can share with their neighbours, because we know that it's not an easy thing to go and knock on your neighbour's door and explain what it is that you want to do. So we're putting together some collateral that people can take with them and leave with people to read and decide, do they want to actually be part of this? Do they want to get fibre, or do they want to opt out? The point to note is that whatever the cost is, it will be spread over the number of people who opt in. So the more who opt into it, the lower the cost per premise to the actual residents. But for us, the cost is still the same, because we have to go that same length and we have to do drop-offs at each boundary along the way. Hopefully that's clear. This is the next thing. So the Infrastructure Priorities Program is, we know that great connectivity is vital. And we know that the government hasn't actually kicked in anything towards fibre further for a long time. We put in bids for shovel ready and all sorts of other projects, and we didn't get anything. So we're now hoping that the government is going to look at fibre further for people just outside of urban boundaries as being a priority, because we know we need to have great connectivity throughout the country, and everybody should be on a level playing field. So we're putting in a bid to the government to get more funding to take fibre further. This is an extension of the scale build stuff that we've already done. So I think I talked last time about the extra towns that we have done around the country that Chorus has paid for to show the government that actually people do want fibre. And we've got pretty good uptake in all of those areas. And that's just a little bit about what the IPP is. It's pretty much straight off their own website, just to explain what it is. And finally, well, not quite finally, but you know our cabinet art initiative where we do the lovely murals on our cabinets. It's coming to a close. The funding's not available for it, so this year is the final year. And Whanganui has some wonderful murals from some wonderful artists, and it's quite heartbreaking to see it come to a close, but that's the way of things. Everybody's looking to tighten budgets, and that's one of them. I haven't put this in, but recently also part of our community outreach is we've been to lots of AMP shows and field days around the country, because we know rural people are the ones that we need to talk to set the record straight about what's happening with copper, talk about fibre further, and also talk about whatever it is that is concerning them about the Chorus network. So we went to the Northland Field Days, we went to Central Districts, we went to the South Island Field Days in Kirwee, and also to Wanaka AMP show. We kind of it's a trial to see whether people would actually come and talk to us, and we were pretty busy most of the time at all of those, so we'll probably do an extended version of that in the coming year. We're also going to National Field Days in Mystery Creek in Hamilton, and we're going to the local government conference as we always do, so we'll have a stand there. And we're also sponsoring the Tuans conference this year in Hamilton, which I would encourage anybody that is interested in digital equity and bridging that divide to go along to, because there's some good speakers and good information at that. Hello.
Joe, does Chorus have any input into the cell phone network?
No.
No.
No. The mobile companies can request us to provide their fibre backhaul. So what connects the actual cell tower to the wider world, we will build, but that's owned by them. So no, is the answer.
Okay, and my other question is the Chorus microwave network, is that still live?
Pass.
Okay.
I can find out.
Right.
Microwave network.
Yeah, microwave tower on out Rangatau West.
I will find out.
Okay.
I'll find out for you. So that's it. Thanks again for inviting me. Are there any other questions before I toddle off?
I'd just like to make the point that Chorus have set 2030 as their date for retiring the copper network. But the new technology is vastly superior. So in our region anyway, I see it as something that perhaps our board could be working towards, is to try and get everybody off copper and onto the better technology well before 2030. And so one of the things I talked to Joe about before the meeting was whether Chorus could help us with that ambition. So I'd be interested if anybody's got any comments on that, sort of from the perspective of our advocacy role as a rural elected people. or Joe, if you've got any response to that.
We can certainly provide you with messaging that you can send out to communities. We're always available for meeting with communities if they're concerned about what's happening. I think it's really about actually getting people to start thinking about the fact that their copper line that they think will always work will not necessarily work when they need it, and to get on to better technology now. Because we know that copper faults are happening all the time and our guys are going out to fix them. But we know our techs are retiring and there are no techs that are training on copper anymore. So by 2030 it's only 5 years away, but we have a whole raft of guys out there still on the tools who are well into their 70s, and they may well retire before that. So I would, strongly advocate that if people can get onto something better, that they should now.
And I suspect in our area anyway, we see people working at the chorus boxes, and I'm very suspicious that there's very few people left actually using that technology. So are we able to work together perhaps to identify situations like that where we could possibly identify those people and help move them onto the new technology?
Because of privacy reasons, we're unable to identify people, and the problem is that if there is only one person still on that network, and we send out something saying there's only one person left, that those people could be identified and maybe don't want to be. So we have to be really careful about what we say, because that's what we had with our CMAR radio stuff. Like in one area there would only be maybe one person still working on a CMAR site, and if we sent out a little dot showing that one connection, it was identifying who that was. So we have to kind of be careful with people's private information. But we can provide you with messaging to do more of a blanket email, and then, or messaging, and then if people want to talk to us, we're very happy to talk to them now about what their alternatives are. If they are that one person that's still left on that copper cabinet, then obviously we'd love to retire it. But we can only do that if they're in a fibre area at the moment.
Oh, okay. Yep. Right.
We can only, it's called the Copper Withdrawal Code, and we have strict guidelines about what we can do, and that's only in fibre areas. But that's going to be extended once we've done that past 2026. So that's when you'll see the work in rural areas from 2026 to 2030, where we actually contact people proactively. So it still remains that if people don't hear from Chorus directly, then their copper line is unaffected. However, we do want people to start thinking about it, because it's not that long until it will be retired, and it might be 2027, it might be 2026 that we actually retire their line. Might not necessarily be 2030. It'll be done by then.
Okay, thank you. So my suggestion is that as a board, we'll just look at ways of trying to promote early exit from copper to the much better options.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions of Joe? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Happy travels back to Carterton.
Thank you.
So do we have to...
Yes, we received the report.
So I'll ask for a mover and a seconder for the recommendation that the Whanganui Rural Community Board receive the report Community Partners Update April 2025. So a mover, Jenny, and a seconder, Bill. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. So we move on to item 6.3, update on consultations, policies and government submissions. Elsie Broadbent Policy Manager, but I see she's not.
She's via Zoom, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Elsie. Thank you for appearing on Zoom.
Yeah.
You ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on Zoom. I'm pretty sure I've met everyone in the room before. As you know, I'm the Strategy and Policy Manager at Council. I just thought it would be a good opportunity to give everyone a bit of an update on all of the council consultations, which are open at the moment, because there's quite a bit going on, and it's the usual sort of busy time when we have our annual plan consultation open. So we currently have our annual plan consultation open now through until the 28th of April. We also have fees and charges. So this is our annual consultation around council fees and charges, things like admission to swimming pools or cemetery costs, etc. And in addition, we also have a local alcohol policy review open, which has been open for over a month now, and we're keeping it open until the end of April. And we also have just had our local water done well consultation open, which just closed on Monday. So I think Catherine might be there in the room as well. The consultation has now closed. She's quite happy to answer any questions you might have about local water done well and just what the next steps are and where that work's going. But before I hand it over to her, I'll give you a little bit more detail about the annual plan. I think you're all well aware of what the annual plan is, that it's the council's budget and plan for the year ahead from 1st of July 2025. And the three priorities the council's focusing on at the moment for this plan are keeping the rates rise lower. So it was forecast to be 6.6% for the coming year, and it's now down to 2.2%. So that's average across all sectors, and it does differ for the rural and the farming sector. So I do encourage you to take a look and see for your own property what your anticipated rates rise is. You can do that by going on to our tool and having a look. It's on our website, and it's also on page 19 of the consultation document, so you can have a look. So that's the first priority, keeping the rates affordable. Second priority is investing in key infrastructure. So this is obviously a core focus for council, and we've heard it from many different parts that our community wants us to keep focusing on the core infrastructure, the roading, the pipes, the footpaths, etc. And then the third priority is involving the community and local decision making. So an example of that is the Citizens Assembly that's been formed to make a recommendation around the future of the Whanganui East Pool. So those are the focuses, and in terms of specifics, there's a couple of specific topics that we're wanting feedback on this annual plan. So the first is affordable housing. So I think everyone's aware that more housing is needed. We don't have adequate warm, dry housing in Whanganui, particularly for an ageing population. So the council has done a business case, and it's identified that the best way it can support housing is to establish a standalone housing entity with partners. So this means a housing entity can operate at an arm's length to council, and it can be independent. It can access funding that council can't access, and it can also leverage private sector funding. So there's a number of advantages to this model. It's been really well worked through. So what we're asking the community is, should the council keep moving forward with the proposal to establish a standalone housing entity? Another topic we're looking at is our strategy for Whanganui. So I think you're aware we've had our leading edge strategy for some time, and that was drafted back in 2014, so a while ago now, and it's time to refresh that. So we've done a bit of community engagement, and we've developed 5 goals, and these goals are very action orientated. You'll notice that they're all verbs, so they're all about what council's going to do, and they are to grow Whanganui, build for Whanganui, protect Whanganui, celebrate and activate Whanganui. So we're looking for feedback from the community around our goals. If they think they're the right goals we should have over the long term. And then, as mentioned before, we're also looking for feedback around fees and charges. So fees and charges are increasing by the rate of inflation. 2.2%, but we're also proposing slightly higher increases for cremations and for trade and tankered waste disposal and for use of the splash centre. And those are largely driven by the significant increases in gas. So I'm sure everyone's well aware that the cost of gas and electricity has just absolutely gone through the roof. And there's been massive increases in our bills. I don't want to be quoted incorrectly, but I think that it's something like an 80% increase. So it's really big. So not all of the costs are being passed on to the users, but we are proposing some increases to slightly offset that. So this is really just a chance to say, please share the annual plan information around your communities. We're keen to hear from the rural community. Get in your submissions by 28th of April. You can either do a board submission if you want, you can do individual submissions. Just encourage you to get in and have your say. And you don't just have to submit on those topics. This is the community's chance to get in, topics or issues that have been on their mind. Now's a great opportunity for them to submit, what's on top for them. And, we really encourage our community to participate. I know it's a busy space at the moment with a lot going on, but this is an important time as well for people to get in before the year starts. So that's probably enough from me. I just thought it was a good chance to pop in on Zoom, give you a bit of an update. Happy to take questions. And then if Catherine is there, maybe after I've taken any questions on the annual plan, you can check in with her around next steps for local water done well. So, any questions for me?
So we get all the info. Oh, yeah, Grant.
Elise, thanks for that. Just a question about the strategy for Whanganui.
Yep.
How much of that is influenced by the central government reforms for local government in terms of changing I think the model is changing away from the pillars that we had been working under?
Yes, correct. Yes, I didn't give a lot of background to that, but that is really important context. So we'd started developing around the 4 wellbeings. You'll remember the environmental, social, cultural, economic wellbeings. And then we'd worked on a draft strategy. And then within that time, our central government came and said, actually, we're going to completely remove those wellbeings as not being councils and local government's core purpose anymore. So I think that actually was an opportunity to pivot away from being locked into something which is set at a central government level to actually come up with something that's a little bit more uniquely Whanganui, something that reflects what our community wants. So we don't know what the future purpose of local government will look like. The previous Minister for Local Government, Simeon Brown, he put up a draft of what he proposed, and it was very focused around infrastructure and economic development and cost effectiveness. But those changes haven't been made yet, and the minister has since changed hands, and they have said that central government have said they're going to make these announcements this year and probably before June, but we still don't know what that will look like. But we saw it as an opportunity rather than hanging our strategy to what central government says, of actually coming up with something around the specifics for Whanganui. And you'll remember we did a huge amount of engagement in 2023 around the wellbeings and asking people what wellbeing actually meant to them and what they really wanted to see for Whanganui. So this strategy has been built on all of that community input. We've just pivoted away from the wellbeings. So hopefully that answers your question.
Oh, definitely. Very in full. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for me?
Okay.
No?
Thank
Okay,
you.
happy to hand over to Catherine. Thank
Are
you.
you hanging around till Catherine's finished?
Yeah, I'll stay online in case there's any other questions that come up. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Catherine.
That one. Good afternoon, everybody. Just very quickly, as Elise said, the consultation for local water done well has been running over the last month or so. We ran a series of 8 engagement events, and we very specifically and deliberately made sure that some of those were in locations that were easily accessible for our rural communities. And that included an event at Fordell Hall and an event out at Mawhanau. Those events were attended kind of in line with the turn up that we had for all of those events, where we haven't had hugely high numbers, but Mawhanau, you might be pleased to hear, had the highest. So thank you for your work in promoting those to your kind of people who would be interested in them. Whilst those events were had quite low attendance, the conversations were really good, so people had very constructive and interested questions and very constructive feedback, which we're hoping is reflected back in the submissions to the consultation. Those closed on Monday, and I think we have about 230. We're just calculating the last of the hard copies that we've also received. The next step for that is we will be having hearings on the 1st of May, and then from there council will have deliberations as part of the council meeting on, I think it's the 20th of May. And that is to allow us enough time to then do the work to finalise our water services delivery plan and have it adopted by council at the end of June, ahead of the September deadline for submitting it to government. So that's sort of a very high level direction of travel. I'm very happy to take any questions and attempt to answer them.
Thank you. I'm right in thinking Mawhanau and Fordell are really the only rural areas that are affected by this issue?
Yes, and I think it's an interesting thing and a kind of quite subtle nuance for our rural communities, whereby some people in rural communities are connected to Whanganui supplies, and in which case they will be affected in the same way as someone in the centre of town, but anyone who is not connected to a part of the supply will have no change. This policy doesn't affect you if you have your own supply or your own wastewater tanks and things on site.
Just for clarification, does it cover the rural water schemes, i.e. Pakaraka and, well, Nukumaru is sort of in our area, but not.
So in so much as if those schemes are owned by the council, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Pakaraka one is a scheme owned by council, that would be included in these proposals. If it is a scheme that is owned entirely privately, it won't be.
Okay, thank you. I've certainly been following the email chain that's been coming from councillors in the last few days regarding will Whanganui actually be better off if it works with Ruapehu and Rangitikei, is it?
Yep.
So there's obviously some interesting discussions to happen. Are you all in the loop with those emails that the likes of Rob Vinson is sending around? The email's been a bit, our email's been a bit dodgy lately, so possibly some people haven't been aware of it.
So I think we've been quite clear the whole way through this process that the financial case for Whanganui is very marginal one way or the other. There is a very small financial benefit or financial disbenefit over the sort of 10, 20 and 30 year period. If Whanganui Council was to choose to join up with others, it's always been because it would be for bigger, more strategic reasons around resilience, ability to adapt to change, and the kind of potential for more efficiently and cost effectively meeting infrastructure challenges into the future. So over time, we are likely to have some form of large investment need, just the same as anybody else. And just where we are in the cycle at the moment is we don't have that in the short to medium term, but in the longer term, we will. So the question, as I've said many times, really comes down to a political question for elected members to decide on, which is which of these options do you think gives us the best chance of continuing to make good investment decisions that are financially sustainable for our communities into the future. And that is a question for elected members around this table to just determine. We have put together a kind of objective appraisal of what the different benefits and disbenefits of each option are, and that sort of objective appraisal lands with a slightly ahead for the joint option, but any of those options is viable, and it comes down to perspectives on risk and resilience.
Yep. Okay, that's I haven't followed it very closely, but that's certainly the understanding of it that I have. So any benefits are likely to be well into the future and hard to document at this stage.
Yeah, I think there would be short-term benefits, but they're probably not immediately tangible. What there wouldn't be is disbenefits immediately and into the future. So yeah, the tangible benefits come in the medium to longer term around the finances, but in terms of being able to be a more effective and efficient operation, those benefits would be kind of realised behind the scene quite early on.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool.
So do we have any further questions?
Yep, I've got one.
Okay, Bill? Yep.
Thanks for that, Catherine. After that meeting at Fort L, I sort of wondered about the funding of the water. And Grant here just suggested that entity would send out separate bills. Is that the case?
Yep, potentially, and certainly the recommendation at the moment is that once that entity is stood up, over time we would expect it to move to issuing its own bills, rather than that coming through from council as part of a rates bill. And to be really clear, you'd only pay for water service delivery once, either in your rates bill or directly to the entity like a utility company. We don't expect, the way we're sort of thinking about that at the moment is we think that would be kind of year 2 or year 3, so kind of at least 3 years away till you made that move. But again, the reason for that is it's one of those operative efficiencies where for the entity to do the billing of all its customers in a single streamlined way is more efficient than for it to get 3 individual councils to do the billing and then pass the money back, etc. So it's seen as one of those opportunities in the medium term that increases your efficiency and your effectiveness.
Okay. I guess for Joe Average, they're going to look at their bill, aren't they? What it cost last year and what it costs this year and what it costs next year and the year after. And if it gets to the point where suddenly there seems to be a big jump because of setup costs or whatever, all right, people are not going to be too happy, are they?
No, so we're not anticipating a big jump at any point, and we're not anticipating it would be because of setup costs. We expect that those setup costs would be debt funded by the entity and paid back over 2 to 5 years. So again, that kind of keeps your increase in any 1 year quite minimal. And I think the Commerce Commission and the government's perspective is that by very clearly splitting out water bills, people have a lot more transparency about what they are paying for water delivery and what they're not. And again, as I say, some of people will have different perspectives on how much benefit there is to that. I know some people passionately want to pay for their water service delivery inside their rates bill, and in fact to the point sometimes don't realise that they are already paying towards water service delivery inside their rates bill. But that's just one of the factors to consider. But yes, at the moment the intention is that by about year 3 or year 4 we would transfer those services out of council and into the entity.
Cheers. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Catherine.
Cool.
Excellent.
You're welcome.
I'll just make one point at this stage, is that as a board, we need to consider whether we want to submit on any aspect of this year's annual plan. And what, 28th did you say, Elise?
Yes, Monday the 28th of April you've got until then.
So if we are going to submit on anything in the annual plan, we've got till Monday the 28th. So we might just have a quick chat about it after the meeting to see if there's anything that might be of interest. And but we'll all need to go to the website and have a look at the document and see whether there's anything we want to want to submit on. So we might have to have a discussion perhaps next week on that. So anyone want to comment on that? Okay. And so before I put the recommendation, I'd like to thank Elise for all her work for the last however many years. Because you are moving on soon, is that correct?
Yes, 4 years it's been. And in the last year or so, I haven't been around as much as I wasn't the senior officer anymore. But it's been really great working with you, and I do really encourage you to keep putting in your submissions. I just realised I didn't mention a couple of the submissions in my report because you're going to have a conversation about the speed limit reduction submission to central government. And the 4-year term one is due tomorrow. So unfortunately, it may just be a little bit late for the Rural Board to submit on that one now. But I encourage you to keep abreast of what's happening locally and at the central government level, and make sure the rural voice is heard. It's really important. Thank you.
Okay, well, I've thoroughly enjoyed working with you. Thank you, Elise. And all the best for whatever it is you're moving on to.
Thank you.
Okay, and so now I'll ask for a mover and seconder for the recommendation that the Whanganui Rural Community Board receive the report, update on consultations, policies and government submissions, April 2025. So can I have a mover? Michael, Grant, seconder. All in favour? Against? It's carried. Thank you. And bye-bye, Elise. So we'll move on to item 6.4, rural rubbish. And we've got John with us.
And Morgan.
Oh, and Morgan. Oh, yes, thank you. Oh, yeah.
Hello, I'm Morgan. This is my first Rural Community Board meeting, I think,
Right,
but
welcome.
I'll let John take the reins first. He's going to give us a bit of an update around some of the activities that have been happening, and then I'll give you a bit of an update around the rural bin the issues that we're seeing.
Good afternoon, everyone. You can hear me. I'll start off with River Road. People may have noticed in the area that the bins have been rolled out. Originally, they had the orange bins, and now they're the forest green ones. They're the right size and number for the community and that they're trying to service. The contractor has provided feedback that they find the site reasonably in good condition. Further up the river, Pipariki, the Ruape District Council have changed and fenced the compound with a gated complex with restricted hours. That seems to be going well for them. The contractor has said that's nice and tidy as well, but an unforeseen consequence of that is Te Hui Road, which we've found that there's been high volumes of illegal dumping in around the Te Hui site. Volumes far exceeding what, it was always a problematic site, but it's far exceeding what we've had before. We have the litter team, our litter team from Whanganui that goes up once a week, a part of their route, and we visit and we try and investigate and find anything, any evidence that we can, and also go through footage.
We've got a camera there.
Yes. We are approached by members of the community quite often when we're there, providing generally good feedback, and we're encouraging them to contact us. We're happy to give our contact details if they could provide evidence or photos or anything that can trace back to find these offenders, basically. At this stage, we haven't had anybody follow that up. So we just still want to, I think the community itself is the biggest empowerment that will help us do our job effectively. It's a long way to go up there, and we try and, the main reason why we do go up there is to ensure that there's access for the contractor. If we can't get access, then the bins are just left to fill up, and it's even worse.
Jenny, just while we're talking about the River Road, John, Jenny emailed me some queries about that. Do you want to talk to John about that now, Jenny? Or?
Oh, it's just the residents at Ngātahi. We said they were still having a bit of problem with people coming at night and filling up the bins, passing through. And we're working on a strategy
Yeah,
to try to address that.
we can talk. I'll talk a bit about
Great.
the next
Okay,
steps.
so, sorry, so that's obviously coming up here. No, sorry to interrupt, John. Wait, keep going.
No, that's fine. Two other problematic sites have actually decreased a little bit. That's Kawarapao Road and Ngāturi. The contractor there has been able to get access that quite easily. He's been quite impressed. There are the odd problems. When it comes to trying to catch offenders in those particular areas, we are having trouble with the signal out there with the footage, and that seems to be quite intermittent.
That's the Ngāturi one. And certainly I drive past that every time I come into town, which is a lot. It looks to me to be way better. Not very often that there's overflow at all these days.
Mm.
Thankfully, we have a friend in Fordell that can help us if we can come back with the right time of day.
Yes.
He's quite willing to help us track and trace some of the registrations. However, one of the vehicles that we were trying to pursue last week, that particular vehicle, the owner was in Hamilton, and that really came to a dead end there.
Okay.
But there's no shortage of trying.
Yeah, no, I have passed on our appreciation to the person that you are speaking about. Thank you.
Probably the biggest, I guess, project that we're actually working on now is the Brunswick decommissioning. It has gone from a rubbish bag drop-off site to a site that attracts whiteware, bee frames, non-bag rubbish, animal carcasses, remains, barbed wire fencing, you name it, it's there. It's become a health and safety concern, not only for our litter team who monitor the site, but also for the contractor, because as they're removing the items, they're not actually sure what else is in there. So the decision was actually quite easy. There's been 2 surveys over the last 3 years out to the community. One was done from Brunswick School, and another one was done from us in late 2022, all indicating that it was a big problem. And so I think the main thing we had to try and cater for is that the area could still be serviced. And we are confident that we can service that through a local contractor who will open up further roads for all the households, all the residents in Brunswick. We will also have other alternative options for those that don't receive the service where the truck cannot get up that particular end of the road and back. So there will be an undisclosed drop-off area that only those households will know. That has proven effective with the decommissioning of Kaimatera Road, and we've had no illegal dumping since. we're working with the infrastructure team, and we expect the householders will receive their letters in the next week or so, and we're hoping to have this in effect within about 6 weeks. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Morgan?
Hello. So I'll just touch a little bit on what John was talking about with Brunswick. Obviously, there's a few issues there with large-scale dumping at the drop-off site currently, and we've also had some concerns from people about the rodent population thriving there, and I just wanted to give a brief update on that. Until we can deal with the decommissioning of the site, the contents of the bins are more tasty than the bait blocks that the pest management's putting out, so it's not very effective at the moment. So until we can sort that site out, we won't be able to effectively address the rodent problem right now. I just wanted to...
those gas, can you put in those things that dong them? Well, I suppose they won't take the bait because the other stuff...
That's the thing, there's such a large supply of food in the bags that they'll prefer that than the bait blocks. I just wanted to talk about the rural bins, and so since November our contractor has started providing us with more data on the weights of the bins that they're emptying, and I'm really sorry that those red lines haven't come out quite how I would hope. I would have put white writing on them if I'd known it was going to look like that. This just kind of gives you an indication of the amount, and this is in tonnes of rubbish that these sites are producing each month. And just to give you some context, our neighbours in South Taranaki have 6 rural transfer stations with and 4 of them have 24/7 recycling drop-off, and they produce around 200 tonnes in a 6-month period. We have these sites, and that's 161 tonnes in 5 months of just general rubbish. So I think the main thing I wanted to draw your attention to was our challenges with Te Hui Road, in particular the amount of illegal dumping that is occurring up there. And Diane, would you be able to pop the next slide? Just a few photos of what we're experiencing at Te Hui. Large-scale green waste, general rubbish dumping, just bits and pieces of household clear-outs. And when we are going through this, we have a litter team that go out and they spend half a day up there once a week. So that's 4 hours of a team of 5 going up there to clean up the site before our contractor empties those bins. So there's an inefficient use of our staff time right now, but most of the time when they are looking through this rubbish, they are finding letters from residents in Ratahi. They are finding letters from Whanganui, but it's predominantly from Ratahi. So we have reached out to the Ruapehu District Council, and we've kind of talked to them, or we're waiting for a response really. It's been a few weeks and I'm still waiting for a response. But what we would like to do is work with you and the community in that particular area to discuss some options around how we manage waste at Te Hui Road. And 2 options are we either relocate the site to an undisclosed location and inform only our residents of this location. And I'm sure that it will get out, but I think it's probably worthwhile considering that. The other option is actually decommissioning the site entirely and informing residents about the nearest site, which is Parihoho Road, of the next location that they could use to dispose of their rubbish.
So that's quite a long way away, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a very long way away. The concern is that these bins are actually for residential waste, and they're not being used for residential waste. There's a washing machine in one of those bins. Someone's dumped an old water tank. There's like logging waste. There's just general rubbish. There's also a large amount of recyclables that could be disposed of in a better way. So what I would want to do as well is when we come to review our waste plan next year from July, actually let's work together and develop a really strong rural solution and figure out how we can better serve our rural communities in these more remote locations. So I would appreciate when we come to do that some real problem solving. Put your problem solving hats on and let's have a chat about that. So.
We can make an effort to find out, to get some suitable contacts from that area.
That
None
would
of
be
us
helpful.
board members live anywhere near there,
Okay.
but I do have some contacts up there, so it's just a matter of finding some people up there that we can easily talk to.
Yeah.
See if we can get some ideas from them.
It's becoming a bit untenable, that site. It's the amount of rubbish that gets dumped in front of the bins, and the truck drivers that go up to empty them have to clear that away before they can even access the bins to empty
And
in
you've
them.
had no luck
So
with trying to track down people
We've-
responsible.
we're not in a enforcement yet. We're just in an information gathering stage because we've only just installed trail cameras up there to identify vehicles and responsible people. So we have been reaching out. John, you've sent some letters to residents where we've found letters, but usually they're household clear-outs, and by the time you send a letter, they're not living in these properties anymore because they're gone. They've moved. They've dumped their stuff. They've moved house and they're gone. So it's really hard to track these people down.
Do we know how many people, Whanganui people, that area is servicing?
That's something I've just requested last week from our GIS team, is actually how many rural properties are being serviced by each of these bins, kind of setting a radius around each of these sites to understand how many properties are being captured.
It's possible that area, there's not actually a big Whanganui.
No, it is right near the border,
Regional
yeah.
number there.
Yeah, it's quite close to the Ruapehu border. And I would suggest that it's probably a bit more accessible from the Ratahi side than it is from the Whanganui side as well. So,
Can you see it from State Highway? It's on State Highway 4, isn't it?
it's tucked off. It's about half a k up a gravel road, metal road from State Highway 4. So someone's caught wind and just shared the love. Cool. That's my update.
Okay. Well, I don't, that's a real concern, that Tahiri Road.
Yes.
So I've got a couple of people I know up that way.
I'd appreciate some contact
I
details,
might
yeah, to work with
give
them.
them a call.
Yep.
And see what comment I get,
Okay.
and I'll raise the issue of moving it.
My preferred option would be to move it to a different location, closer to houses and somewhere that we would have a better oversight of as well, because it takes a good hour for our team to get up there with the trailer, and then they're spending an hour and a bit cleaning up the site, and then they're coming back. So it's 4 hours by the time our team's finished sorting out that site each week.
Okay, I'll talk to the couple of people I know up there.
Thank you.
Be a good excuse to catch up with them anyway.
Yeah.
Signage. Do you think it would be better signs would help? What signs have you got there?
What have we got up here in terms of signs?
The signs could be refreshed.
Yeah. We could look at some more signage, definitely. I'd probably put it up at the site, but also we could look at improving the site in terms of access, maybe putting in some bollards or something to prevent trailers being backed in to tip off and things like that, or similar to Papariki where they put in a gate and only residents have access, and the collection driver can pick them up. So there's a multitude of ways we could do it. It's just about budget and the will of the community.
Okay, and I was going to make that comment in regard to the Ngāturi site as well, because I don't think the signs, there is a sign there, I don't think it's effective. I just wonder whether putting a sign up which pointed out that they could smile at the camera while they were dropping their washing machines and things off. Perhaps something saying that there is active compliance.
Yeah, we can definitely look at something.
I mean,
yes.
Your call completely, but if you think the signage, some alternative, more visible signage may be of assistance, we'd be keen to hear about that.
Okay.
And the other possibility, and I've no idea whether it's a go or not, is that if the cost is an issue, whether it would be eligible for our community grant fund to assist with smallish amounts. We do $500 or $1,000, but if it was signs, that might actually help. So
Okay.
if there's serious budgetary constraints, if you think that would help, we'd be keen to talk about it.
Okay, thank you. We'll go and do some options, look at the options and cost them up, and whether or not they're actually feasible as well. We'll have a chat with our transportation friends around what we can do in the road reserve area. So
And of course, we brought this up at the Whanganui community meeting about the Ngāturi one.
yes,
And the comment that came out straight away was charge the Rangatiki people.
if only it
Because
were
I
that
think
simple.
I think a lot of the rubbish at Ngāturi probably comes from places like Kongaroa and up the road towards Hunterville.
Obviously we run the service at Pipiriki on behalf of Ruapehu, and we have a cost recovery from them for that. And whether or not it's something that they might entertain in terms of Te Hui being so close to the district boundary, and that their residents are using the site, that it might be something that we would consider with them.
I have a feeling we did talk to Rangatiki about the Ngāturi one some years ago.
Not Ngāturi.
And Rangatiki were onto it and they said, go away.
One other thing I just wanted to bring to your attention, Elise mentioned there were consultations, and government love to consult on things right now. The Ministry for the Environment have recently opened a discussion document for consultation on proposed regulations to enable a national take-back and recycling scheme for agrochemicals, containers and farm plastics. So I'm happy to share that with yourselves if you would like to prepare a submission as the Rural Community Board on that particular.
Yes, we need to have a look at it. I mean, ag recovery, I understood ag recovery adequately had that covered, but perhaps not.
So this is basically ag recovery. Ag recovery is a optional and opt-in product stewardship scheme, and this proposal is to make it a mandatory product stewardship scheme. So anyone who produces a farm plastic, agrochemical, anything like that, they have to take part in the scheme itself. So ag recovery is relying on a few key big players to contribute towards that scheme, and this one is making sure it's compulsory for everybody to pay their fair share into the scheme.
I had no idea about that. So are you able to circulate information on
Yes,
that?
I'm more than happy to
That would
share
be
that
very
with
good,
you.
thank
Yeah.
And we won't do it today, but I'd like to have a discussion on rural recycling at some point.
Yes.
But we might try and organise something for perhaps the June meeting.
Sure.
On that, if you think that's appropriate.
Yes, we can. We were having a conversation this morning about the recycling option at Brunswick School as well. So we've just come into possession of a couple of recycling setups that might be quite suitable for
And
that
it may
community.
be more appropriate that we do that in a workshop
Yeah.
rather than at one of these meetings. So perhaps we'll have that discussion
Yeah, sure.
quite soon about what information you could provide to us and what setting you would like that to happen in.
Yeah, I think we have had discussions in the past where we would very much like to meet with you in a kind of setting where we're talking about what your challenges are and what you're wanting to see, and then we can come up with some specific solutions to help your
Well,
communities.
perhaps would May be too soon for that?
Okay.
You'd be happy to have that discussion mid to late May
Yeah, no, that's fine. We can set something up. Yep.
as a workshop?
Mm.
Yeah. We've got a workshop scheduled, and that would be an ideal.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
That's fine.
Well,
I can-
thank you very much for you two for those presentations. Do we have any questions or comments? Okay. Thank you very much. So if we can have a mover and a seconder, please, for the recommendation that the Whanganui Rural Community Board receive the report Rural Rubbish Update April 2025. Jenny will move it and Michael will second it. All in favour, please say aye. And against? It's carried. 6.5. We're running a bit behind schedule, aren't we? A little bit. Colin.
Hold on, have I pressed the wrong button? Is that the right button?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
There's a
yes,
one
I
on
had
here.
a look through that.
That's on. Oh, that's yours.
Sorry, Colin.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Apologies for the late report. So I will read it because you might not have had a chance to read it. So the first topic is rural connectivity, and it was good to see Joe from Chorus here outlining what they're up to. So what I've talked about here is that satellite technology will have a positive impact on rural communities for those that don't already have connectivity. So it gives them an option of joining. However, it's come to our attention that satellite is not the be-all and end-all for rural communities, that it is fibre, which will give better reliability, capacity and performance. So in that vein, it's important to seek open access fixed line fibre networks in our rural communities, so that all New Zealand households are on a level playing field. Now, I understand that sometimes a community might only have 5 people, and it's just not worth getting the fibre lines that way. But one of the things that has come across is treat it like electricity network lines, and where there are new communities growing in our rural communities, then think strategically right at the start and have that infrastructure put in place, or seek to have that infrastructure put in place before your roads are fully sealed and put down. So that's something to consider, and particularly with the retirement of the copper network line by 2030, it will be really important that those communities are looking at transitioning, and they're looking at transitioning soon rather than waiting till 2030 to complain about it being taken away. And we know the reasons for copper being taken away is more because it's just too expensive to keep maintaining that line, and there are other 21st century technologies that are probably more adequate for today's communication. So further than that, the Tuans Connecting Aotearoa Summit is on in Hamilton next month on the 21st of May. It does cover the themes of the state of connectivity in Aotearoa, bridging the digital divide for rural communities, addressing affordability, championing digital inclusion, and what the future connectivity might look like. So I suppose I think that the community board might consider sending someone up to the summit to keep abreast of the state of connectivity, and also to understand what the impact of lack of connectivity has on social, economic and environmental outcomes for those communities. I was thinking it was getting a bit dark in here. Right. I'm happy to take questions in between each section, because I saw a question come up. So through you, Chair, yeah, I can take
that's fine.
questions in between.
Is there fibre to Fordell? Bill, there is, isn't there?
There's fibre to the school.
Yep.
That's all. The public is not able to access that at the moment.
Are they not?
No.
Oh, we should have asked Joe about that. It sounds to me like Chorus will pay the first $2,500 towards
3.5 per
getting
household.
people connected.
Well, more than by the sound of it.
Yeah.
So I
3.5 for the
understand that
networking.
Chorus has still got copper services in Whanganui. It's Tuatahi that has their that does
So
the
the fibre to Fordell could be
the
the
fibre
other way.
in this area. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Possibly we should follow up on that. Doesn't sound quite right that fibre's got to the school and no one else can use it. So
Yeah.
shall we do some, we'll have a think about how we can chase that up, shall we, Bill?
Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me, Chair.
Graham?
How much you across the retirement, talking about old technologies, I know, but the retirement of the 3G network, which is being held on to by tenterhooks, but I believe it will actually be shut down.
So not
because-
across it at all.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Is it something that we need to be concerned about on the fringes in the rural areas that appear? There are many areas I know of that only get 3G coverage, and if they're going to shut that down, then we would take a very backward step in terms of our cell phone coverage.
I think the same as what's happening with copper. There's got to be a time where it stops because it's just too expensive to maintain it. So from what I understand, there is way more coverage, like for instance across the Paraparas through satellite in terms of mobile connectivity. So that might be what happens. There might be some people that might need to upgrade to a smartphone. So it's really hard to understand why or where the connection is, but I'm not the connectivity.
I'm wondering if we might look around and see if we can find someone who could present to us on the complexities of delivering the mobile service to rural areas. I know all the new RCG towers don't do 3. They're all 4. So I can't imagine that that's a problem, but there's obviously a lot of things we don't know about it, so we'll perhaps you might be able to help us there too, Colleen. We'll chase up and see what we can find in the way of someone who might be able to explain it all.
Yeah, I think the thing is, once they have explained it, it's how is the community then finding out about it through the Rural Community Board, rather than it just being a whole lot of information that you're receiving and not necessarily sending. So that'd be quite
I
good
think we
for.
have some contacts through the Rural,
Yep.
Rural Connectivity Group.
Yep.
So we'll have a go at trying to contact someone there, and that
Yeah.
may even come out of the two ends, the thing in Hamilton anyway.
Could do. All right. Next one, diversity project. So we're in the early stages of a project to support land use diversification, very similar, if not exact, but not, as the branching out project in Taranaki. Now, if you know Taranaki well, it's got a big mountain in the middle and a whole lot of flat land. Whanganui is not like that. We have 79% class 6 to 8 land, very hilly. So the project is to, so it started off as a how do we support our hill country farmers that want to diversify parts of their good land and don't necessarily want to go into forestry, and what other options are there for diversification, what sort of things can grow. So working with Plant and Food, they're going to produce maps with the land use classification, the slope, the growing degree days, and the frost-free periods, and then intersect all 4, and then the landowner, who usually knows what all those things are, or the climate and the soil of their land can actually work out what might be something that they can diversify in on their good land. And when I say diversification, it doesn't mean move away completely from what they do well. It's actually what little bits of land can they use for something else that might be of high value. So once we have those maps, we'll bring landholders together and explore what diversification can happen, whereby they may have productive land that they want information on what they can grow, or they might want to grow something and don't know where to grow it. Don't know where in the district it can grow. So there's those opportunities, and so that's what we'll do workshops with plant and food and see what can be grown. And then, so once they're received, schedule of forums will be put together to bring the community of interest together, from hill country farmers to small block holders. And the project is part of our bigger food tech and innovation project, which also comes under the Whanganui as an export gateway umbrella. So do I have any questions on that? No? Okay, moving right along. Third one is Massey students that are studying the international business course through the business school. So we're working with some second year students to identify, their project is to identify perishable products to export markets. So the products may be actual or not yet grown, or actually not even a thing. For instance, pipless avocados or something, so they can just, they can make it up, but it's really got to be a perishable good that they're trying to get to an Asian market or an international market. So they're required to write an international business case based on their chosen product that they believe has genuine international business opportunity for New Zealand. So the products have been limited to fresh fruit, vegetables, meat, dairy and flowers, and so we, as in me at Whanganui Partners, have assisted 5 students to identify products based on our strengths in Whanganui. So we're focused on sheep meat and strawberries, and we didn't go into kiwi fruit because Zesby pretty much have that market, or other places, but they're a lot bigger. Anyway, so what we looked at was marinated fresh lamb into Japan, pre-packaged lamb shabu shabu to Japan. So shabu shabu, if you don't know, is the really finely sliced meat. Pre-packaged convenient lamb gyoza. I spelt meat wrong, but anyway, to Japan. And gyoza is like the stuff that goes into a dumpling, a wonton, or it's the little minced stuff. And the reason it's like looking at convenience is because, just like here, convenience food tends to be a lot more acceptable, because then you don't have to get your hands too dirty. You can just buy it ready-made. Strawberries to Japan and strawberries to Philippines. The thing is, with the business case, they will cover competitive analysis, trade and investment policy, country analysis, and market entry strategies, to give an overview of implications for New Zealand products in our globalised world and the challenges for businesses operating in that international environment. I particularly didn't write down tariffs because that didn't come up in that paper, but it might do. The students are aware that Whanganui is a UNESCO City of Design and may use this as a marketing strategy. So really looking forward to what they develop in their investigations, which will be completed in the middle of June. It's not costing us a cent, but I might get them some pizzas when they present. Any questions on that? Okay, yes? What do you mean? Oh, so the international business paper is every semester, so they just came to me and said, have you got any ideas? It's basically, we've got a good relationship with the business school, and so like some students don't know what to come up with. So yeah, so you can give me some ideas, that'll be great for the next time. But keeping in mind that they're 200 level, they're not you know, PhDs or anything, which will take you 4 years to get an answer. But the thing is, what they're going through is probably a good start anyway, in terms of looking at regulation in different countries and, you know, trying to get food in. Okay, all right, and then Tech Week, which is coming up from the 19th to 25th of May. So Whanganui and Partners are part of the event on Thursday the 22nd of May, entitled Think Global, Solve Local, turning everyday problems into world-class solutions. And so that event is designed to highlight how everyday challenges can become opportunities for ground-breaking innovation. And speakers will share the story of their journey to filling the gaps in the market. So one of the speakers or potential speakers is Frog Parking from Palmerston North. So it's not a Whanganui company, but that came out of someone looking at a clunky parking meter and going, surely it can be done better. Surely the parking meter people don't need to walk around and chalk all the tyres and then walk around again just to check if that car's still there, and then check if they've paid enough and whatever else. So the Frog Parking, the whole idea was that you have a little sensor on the ground, and the car will park over the top of it, and then you'll know that there's a car parked there, and then it's somehow connected to the meter and can tell how long you're parking for, and then send the car owner a ping when they're coming up to the end of their parking. It can send the parking meter person a ping when they're coming up to the end of their parking to go over and give them a ticket if they stay too long. So basically there's a win-win for not only the council in terms of walking parking wardens, but also for the car owner, who can then zoom back and either put more money in the meter, or if it's restricted, then move their car. So I mean that's what was seen as a clunky system, and moved to a more technological solution, which is a win-win, and that's now being exported to other parts of the world to basically fill the gap in their clunky parking systems. So it's trying to get people to get inspired, to think globally, to reach international markets through things that can be produced and innovated locally. So there are other local people that we're trying to get to speak, but I think school holidays is getting in the way of people returning emails. But yeah, that should be that also feeds into the Whanganui as a global as an export gateway. So looking at what opportunities we have globally. So through you, Chair, any questions for me on that?
And the question is, it's on that date, but where?
Sorry? Oh, sorry, it's at the back
The
house.
Tech Week.
Yeah, it's at the back house. So Whanganui Tech Network are actually running Tech Week, and they've asked me to just do one session, but it's being run at the back house, and it will be, I think it's about 5:30 maybe on that night.
There is an email list they send round. So
Yeah, I think they're getting their program together at the moment, and then they'll start putting everything
I'm not quite
together.
sure, if you want to be included in that list, I'm not quite sure how you go about it, but I get those emails.
Yeah. No, I'll wiggle my way in somehow.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, it's just asked to be put on the newsletter subscription for the Tech Network, and you'll get all of that. Yeah. Any
We
other
good?
questions? Okay. Oh, good.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you, Colleen. So if there's no more questions of Colleen, I shall ask for a mover and a seconder for the recommendation that the Whanganui Rural Community Board receive the report Agribusiness Update, April 2025. Mover, please. Jenny and Michael. Yep. Thank you, Colleen. And next, the roading team. Thank you. Sorry you've had a bit of a wait. Away you go, Mark. Very nice to see you again. And
Thank
remember,
you.
Remember, my attention span's a bit limited.
Thank you, Chair David. As we've mentioned a couple of times previously, to supply more information through this committee, we've decided to bring a couple of the Alliance staff each time. This will have two main parts. One, it enables you to have questions and conversations directly with those who are carrying out the work on the ground and get a coalface answer to any of your questions, and also speed up anything you ask me. Obviously, I'll be going back through them to get some of those more practical answers. The second part is also from a learning perspective. What we are trying to do is, with some of the key Alliance staff, to bring them into our council meetings and through some of our processes, so that as they're going through and doing the work, they can understand the connectedness through the elected and through the community to understand how we actually do our works. The other part too is we've also mentioned that with the board going forward, when we put our reports to the Operations and Performance Committee, we'll also then bring those same reports to yourselves. The focus obviously be somewhat different, because at that point it's obviously covering all of the council roading and transport areas, but it also covers off on several of the quite specific areas to the rural roading network. Obviously, as you've just had the conversation in regards to some of the solid waste, if you look at the last page of the report, you'll see that there's similar photos of some of the fly tipping that's taking place and the way in which the roading team has been dealing with the waste department and helping remove some of that waste.
Yes, thank you for that report. I have seen it, and everybody should have got it.
So, taking the report as read, I would like to make a couple of quick highlights. If you have a look at the summary section in regards to the budgets, I won't need to look at it, because I'm well aware that when you look at the unsealed road section, you'll see that we're quite well spent to date. One of the issues we have had is we've spent very early in our unsealed network, and that has been due to some of the forestry damage that had taken place from that sort of July, October wet period, and that drew very heavily upon our budgets. What we are looking at doing is we're trying to level our budgets across in a 3-year period, as well as utilise the added resilience funding that we've been given to help out our rural network. There is $250,000 that we've got extra in funding. 100 was for this year. We're actually looking at bringing forward another 150 from year 3 to basically work on all of our drainage and areas and try and bring the network up to make it more resilient, so that it can handle some of the forestry traffic. Obviously, we won't say all, but that is probably one of the major focuses in that area. Also, in regards to some of the other works, there's the Culvert 49, which you may be aware of. Yeah, that's progressing very well. We're actually still obviously working through there into the winter. One of the major decisions we're going to have to make in the next couple of weeks is whether we stop work on that and then restart in the spring, or whether we try and continue on in that site through the winter to try and get an earlier completion. If you can tell me what the weather is going to do in the next 3 months, that would be quite helpful.
Sunny.
Sunny?
No, I think it's never going to rain again.
Yeah. And so, obviously from our end, we were trying to work a lot more with the waste department and some of our other departments and what we're doing. And the solid waste area is one of those areas that you've obviously seen through that. As we've now got solid waste parks and the likes in there, I have mentioned in the report that we're taking on in the urban area the likes of the sealed surfaces that are as part of our amenities area, because the sealed surfaces obviously sit with our roading, sit similar. The under veranda lighting in town, we're taking on that because it obviously sits well with our street lighting and just makes it easier to and more efficient to deal with it in one part. And obviously the assistance in the rural area in regards to any of the fly tipping and rubbish removal. And I won't mention that we should put a tariff on anybody or build a wall. What I would like to do is pass over to Blair and Jason just to give you a bit of an update on what's happening out there and what is planned for the next 3 months.
Thank you. I'll just introduce myself first. I'm Jason Johns, the Alliance Operations Manager. So I sort of help out, provide a service with my team up in the network, both urban and rural. So for us, that we're working on at the moment is actually starting to begin our programs for the next 2 years. So we are fully focused on culvert maintenance, cleaning both the inlets and outlets. We're looking at mainly in the rural area. We're focusing on, we've just done some drive-overs of Mangamahu, Burma Hill, Fields Track, O'Neill's, and today we're up in Whanganui River, identifying the seriously blocked culverts. So we're preparing ourselves, obviously, for any event that may occur. We've also got wheel track excavators heading up Whanganui River right now, going through and starting to clear up those troubled areas. Out on Tayforth Road, we're starting to do our turfing. So a real focus on drainage, really, because between now and 1st of August, we tend to focus solely on trying to clean up those drainage areas, because that's obviously with a lot of rain that we typically get. So that's pretty much where our focus is right now. Any questions on?
Yes. Right, and I'll speak on the gravel road, on specifically Kaipaki Road, which is, don't take it that this is personal, but I'm sure it's a lot of gravel road people suffer from the same thing. Now, generally, the service is really good. If there is a major piece of work, like trees falling over, you're there within an amazing amount of time. So congratulations on that. And it's the little jobs, and with particularly the mowing, grading, gravelling, and the dust on the Kaipaki Road. Now, at a strategy meeting last week, Mark suggested that they are doing concrete, breaking it up and putting
Cross
it
concrete,
there.
cross concrete.
Now, I was sitting next to Michael, and he said, "Oh, that's really good stuff," and we used it on forestry roads, and it's amazing stuff. And Michael said that it doesn't give any dust, or very little dust. Less dust.
But less,
Yeah. So, on the first stretch of the Kaipaki Road, after the tar seal, they're putting up a whole lot of new houses, and the dust there is just terrible for them. So I was going to suggest that if that is the case, they have less dust. And if you want to experiment somewhere, there's about 500 metres that you could just test it out.
I actually put a load up there yesterday off the end of the seal of concrete metal. Straight off the end of the seal.
Yeah, that's right. And
concrete
then you put some that other shell rock also there. Yeah.
Yeah, so that first bit off the end of the seal, that's concrete, that's crushed concrete.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed that. So I thought, oh, great.
Yeah.
You're already there.
Yeah.
And so it's a good time to nab you.
Yeah.
I would also really appreciate if there was a schedule that I knew when you were mowing or grading or gravelling there, because the big jobs are really good, but it's the little things that I could just quickly do with my tractor and a bucket and my back blade, just to take the high edge, you know, and do those little jobs that would be a real waste of money for you to do, you know, with bigger machinery. So what is the legality of a farmer or somebody just fixing up the road just for the little bits?
Through yourself, Chair David, I cannot give you permission to do it, is the easiest way to put it. If somebody was to do that work on their own, it isn't something that I would be looking for to enforce or chase down, but we cannot obviously give anybody permission to do those sorts of works. If it was to take place prior to us doing work, it would be just that what somebody would have done, but obviously the council can't
I might just suggest
authorise
that,
it.
this is a very good discussion, but it might be better done after the meeting.
I would think that would be a good thing.
But it's yeah. I can.
I think we'll leave it there.
And if I may also,
I get your drift, and we've had a similar conversation at Whanganui.
yeah, if I may pick up on the Whanganui meeting through yourself, Chair David. With that, where Blair's been actually out and had a look at a couple of sections of road, spoke to the community, and what we're actually doing is we're doing some trials. The trials, basically, the way in which we intend to do them is do a couple of different treatments and different ways of looking at it, and then sort of compare which way works the best. And that way, basically, it'll give us an idea on costings. It's easy for us to sit down on paper and work out what the long-term costs of some of the dust treatments are, but the best way in which to do it is do it more empirically as an actual trial. Luckily, we have a PhD civil engineer in pavements who works on councils with us. We were going to use her in the actual trial process to actually look at what some of those costs are. What we discussed at Whanganui was, in some areas, prepping the pavement in a slightly different way for each, sealing some of those sections, which is realistically the only way to stop dust rather than minimise dust, and then not maintain those sections of pavement. So once it's sealed, we just leave it and then don't touch it, and then see how long it is. When you do the costs on sealing a pavement as whole of life costs, one of the biggest prohibitory factors is that when you factor in the fact that it needs to be resealed every 12 to 15 years or so, that reseal cost over a lifetime actually makes doing the work or makes that asset seem very expensive. So the idea we sort of came up with through that meeting was that if we were to seal a couple of sections of road, and that way it would be a unsealed road that has a seal on it, not an actual sealed road, and from an NZTA perspective, that would allow us to be able to do all the prep work and everything except for that seal, which would be basically funded by council. So that's currently the way in which we're looking at doing it, and we're currently just putting those costs together. The decision at that meeting was that once we've got those costs together on each of the different options, to bring that back to the community board to then discuss the costs and the different ways in which we may pay for it.
Yep. Thank you, Mark. It's good that you brought up the dust issue, Peter, because we had the same conversation at Whanganui, and it's great when it comes up from a completely different area as well. It shows it's an issue for right round the region.
Yeah.
So thank you for bringing that one up. The Whanganui people were very happy with the response that Mark and Blair provided to the discussion. Blair spends quite a lot of time with the different rural communities and their roading issues. And my understanding is Blair is quite happy to work with people like you. So if you want to talk to Blair and get his phone number and so that you can discuss these things with him, I think that's well within the rules. Okay, thank you. So any other questions directly relating to what we presented with? I've got a couple of questions to ask, but if you want to, we just talk to Mark or the Downers guys, now's the time. Grant.
Mark, just a sort of a plug that I definitely don't want to see you to see this as too negative, but I note the excellence assessment that was carried out, reported to us in November, from a ratepayer scenario and what the criticism that we receive of the Roading Alliance is. There's two words missing out of that excellence assessment, and what I'm looking for is efficiency and productivity and benchmarking them against something to say that we're getting good value for money, I guess is the...
Yeah, if I may, the excellence assessment, I must say, is the name of the assessment. And it's done by the Road Efficiency Group, which now basically works directly for the ministry and, or dare I say, the minister. Going through that, they highlighted quite a lot of areas in regards to efficiency and effectiveness where we need to improve. And part of that, or all of that, is being taken on board. The connectedness between council, the levels of service being delivered, and the contractor and efficiency is one of the areas that we do need to work on. Hence, you'll see now that, obviously, as I mentioned at the start, we're now bringing our contractors along more into the council meetings and basically becoming, I guess, closer to the works than we have been previously. Obviously, that things like the Mangamahu meeting, where we're actually attending as council officers, as well as the alliance at that. One of the issues is the connectedness between the community and the levels of service to what we're delivering and efficiencies. We can be incredibly efficient at doing a job, but if it's not the job that the community actually wants, then the effectiveness of what we're doing is lacking. And that has been something that has been highlighted, and having my colleagues here today from the Alliance is part of the way in which we are addressing that.
Are there any benchmarking per se that's done on a national basis that
you
can hang your hat on, if you like?
Yes, so other than we have an audit every year which basically goes through the cost effectiveness of our jobs, the cost effectiveness of what we're doing isn't so much an issue in regards to the benchmarking of the cost of what we're doing. The difficulty that has been identified is some of the effectiveness of what we're doing.
Right.
And I'll use this in the footpath space. If we build a footpath from intersection to intersection and build one whole footpath, the square meterage rates to do that is very cheap, because you're on one site and you're doing it. If we go out and do 1,000 small 1 metre sections across the entire network, those rates are far higher. So the efficiency of doing all those little jobs is going to be far more expensive. So therefore but it is far more effective because you're actually doing the pieces that the community are more highlighted for. So instead of moving, I guess, chasing the efficiency of the cheapest way and the cheapest dollar, being able to get better levels of service to what we're doing, to what the community actually want, has been highlighted and is something that we are working on. We're also introducing, and will be up and running by the next financial year, is the performance framework, which is a framework across the Alliance, which actually has a whole pile of direct performance measures in them. Some are soft in regards to more of the, I guess, culture of the organisation, and some are very hard targets in regards to timelines and fixed efficiencies.
I've got a couple of questions. You mentioned forestry. Have you got any particular areas where there's some big harvests coming up that you're having to put a bit of resource into?
I will throw that across to Blair. My knowledge of the forestry and who's doing what where is purely that it changes rather quickly. But one of the great parts is Blair has a lot of contacts in that area and seems to know who's going where and what.
Creek Road, David. No, the Karapoa is just about, that's been our worst road probably. That's just about coming to an end. There is a small block up there of Sid Salisbury's that may go ahead or may not, but the big block up there that's been going for the last 8-9 years is just about coming to an end, hopefully in the next few months. So that'll help.
So the cost of maintaining that road
Will
should drop.
pretty much stop for 25 years, yeah. So that'll be a good thing. There's logs coming out of Tokamara West. Kotanui should finish in about 3 or 4 months. That road is starting to deteriorate quite quickly. It's held up good, but it is starting to deteriorate. Toko West, there's a lot of logs still to come out of there, but one more block and then it'll be another few years before they, from Dougal Macintoshes, will go round 2 again. Yep.
Denlair, that's all finished?
Denlair's all finished for a few years.
You've got that
Yep.
one
Yep.
back to where you'd like it?
Yep. Longacre is probably, there's still a lot of timber to come out of the end of Longacre, and that road isn't the best at the moment. Unfortunately, they didn't just carry on harvesting it. Obviously, the prices dropped, so they had to stop. So they're actually roading it at the moment, but there's no given date of when they'll start, but it will start up again, hopefully summer. And Thompson Road, once again, it depends on the price. This is the problem. They've started Thompson Road, but then went away with the price, which, yeah. And the only other block I've heard is out number 3 line where we've done an area wide. There's a block of pines in there by New Zealand Forestry.
So apart from Creek Road, the demands on the roading budget from forestry don't look unmanageable for the next, at least medium term. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah. Yep. Longacre will be the worst one, I think. That could really hurt. Yep. Because it's such a wet place and narrow, you know, that's the problem. It's a single lane road really. And
Okay, thank you for that. And all of a sudden, about 3 weeks ago, the email lit up with the Kaikokapu Road gravel section again. It's been a little bit of an issue ever since I've been on the Rural Community Board. But for some reason, it suddenly appeared again quite recently. Perhaps can you provide us with an explanation as to why that is still a couple of k's of cattle stop most of the time and not sealed?
I would love to seal it. I probably annoy everyone about it every day. The reason why it's breaking up recently, like has had a lot of grading, is a lot of it is we've just found out that forestry truck and trailers, with the trailers on the back coming down empty and that, and some sneaking up there. So that's why it's corrugated that in the last few days.
No hope of that being sealed.
Over to Mark. I hope he's going to seal it.
All it takes to seal a road is money. And currently, with NZTA, obviously the seal extensions are not something that is funded. The difficulty, as I said before, with sealing roads to unsealed roads is in the shorter term, unsealed roads can be cheaper to maintain, but when you take the whole of life costs, currently, if you have a look at my report, I may have mentioned it 2, possibly 3 times in the report, just to try and drive it home. Our sealing rates are lucky to be getting up to 4%.
And you
if
need 7 or 9 or something.
Yeah, and if you do the maths, if you reseal a road every 14 years, that is 7%. If you've been running at 3.8, I think was last year's reseal rates. If you seal at the rates that we currently are, I think our asset management plan states 9+% to be able to catch back up. So the difficulty is we can't afford to reseal the roads that we've currently got. Extending the network and not being able to renew them is not a financially prudent way to go. The more roads we have, the more maintenance that we need to do. And deferred maintenance can be seen in our bridges. We've got a bridge closed at the moment, and I think it was 8 or 9 load limited currently. And we're not planning on doing any works on those load limited bridges to actually bring them back up to full spec.
So none of these are NZTA assisted?
They are, but the amount of funds that we've got currently just to maintain what we've currently got is barely keeping us up with the renewal rates that we need to do. For us to actually improve some of the bridges and improve the network, as in seal and bring that standard up, not only, first of all, we need to be able to have enough funding to be able to renew our assets to the point to which they're deteriorating now. Once we can actually match that, then obviously increasing our asset stock would make sense. But this is not this is my 7th council in 30 years. This is not a issue that is different to any of our neighbours or anybody else. And if we could seal it, if we could upgrade our bridges, we would love to.
Okay. Now that was always my understanding. I just thought having, well, I think it was Rob Vincent's, one of the councillors has brought it up recently. So I just, and I've been around long enough to have been there, done that with this particular road. So I just wanted your comment again. Thank you. Is there no way you can keep trucks, big heavy trucks, off that Kaikokapu road?
Now, we've had this conversation with quite a few people at the moment. If it's a road and it's for the purpose of travel and they're not overloaded and they're not, we're not running HPMV or the like on it, the road can be used for the purpose that it is there for. We have this exact same conversation in regards to the carting the rock out to the North Mole, which is looking at coming up soon. That's a sealed road. The pavement's not that great. And when we start running the sorts of loads that we need to get out to the North Mole for the rock, it would be difficult to see how that road would actually be able to withstand that amount of traffic. But that legally, if it's a legal road, you can travel it.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I think we've identified some pretty significant challenges that you people face with keeping us all moving. So thank you for that. I actually think the roads I travel on anyway, I think are very adequately maintained. Certainly, the moment a pothole appears, going out to Whanganui, it gets fixed. Our little gravel road, if we have an issue, Blair gets a team there very quickly to fix it, and I think it's maintained perfectly adequate for the type of road it is. So, so in that regard, I'm quite happy with the way things are going. So anybody else like to make any inquiries while we have this team here? No, that's good. Thank you very much. Most appreciated. So I'll now I'll ask for a mover. Well, I'll move this one. That the Whanganui Rural Community Board receive the report roading update April 2025. So can I have a second? Michael. Thank you. All in favour? Aye. And against? That's carried. Thank you. So we've just to finish off. Grant Skilton prepared a submission on our behalf for the speed limit on State Highway 3 out of, from the town boundary out to Blueskin Road. So would you, I think you've all been circulated that submission, I hope? So is there anything you'd like to add to that, Grant?
Nothing really, just to take it as read, other than that it has been at the local MP, Carl Bates's request, it has also been circulated to him and also to the CE for support from council, although with that regard it was very late in the process from the CE's perspective, so I didn't really have too many expectations that they would be able to support it, my submission directly. But from the board's perspective, it's good to get the submission on the agenda and minutes so that it is officially mandated, if you like.
So when does a decision get made on that issue?
July, I think. It's by July, first week of July.
Okay. Oh, well, here's hoping that someone listens. The indications are that the speed limits, some of the issues in other parts of the country have been listened to, I think. So we'll just wait and see what happens. We presumably can't do any more on that now. Okay. Well, anyway, thanks for your help with that, Grant. I travel that road occasionally, and in fact, I think I got a camera ticket there. So I certainly support it. Okay, so so we need a mover for the Whanganui Rural Community Board. Receive the report, WRCB submission to NZTA speed limits on State Highway 3, April 2025. You might like to move that one, Grant. A seconder. Bill. Okay. Thank you. All in favour? And against? Carried. Thank you. So that's the end of the agenda for today's meeting. It's run a little bit over. My apologies, but thank you all for your participation. And Jenny, would you like to wind us down with a karakia, please? Thank you.